to Unity of Birmingham Live, if you will. Join me in a brief moment of affirmative prayer. In this space and in this moment, we declare this time together as a sacred time, and we declare this space holy. And in this space, we know that the presence of God is already here. We know that the presence of good is already here. And we know in this moment that we are safe. In this space, we know that all that walk through those doors will have that in which they need. Everyone that scrolls and finds the service online will find their place of peace, inspiration, and power and encouragement. We know in this moment now that we are healed. We know in this moment that all is well. And we invite even more good to come into this space. We invite the good to come from within our very own hearts. We are grateful for this time together. We are grateful for this sacred space. And we are grateful to be able to worship together the God that is both in us, with us, around us, as us. And it's in the name and nature of the living one that we affirm this message of knowing and affirmation. So it is.
Good morning, Unity of Birmingham. It is a pleasure to be here today and to see everyone. Welcome again. If you would join me in this time for a brief meditation. You may close your outer eyes. I'm going to share a scripture from the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. If you would take a deep breath in. And relax your body in this space. Relax your mind. Another deep breath in. And breathe out. I am the bread of life. Breathe that in. And breathe out. The Christ in me supplies all of my needs. And relax a little bit more. And breathe in. I am the light of the world. Relax and breathe out. The Christ in me empowers me to take charge of my life. And relax. And know it is so. Breathe in. I am the door. And breathe out. The Christ in me provides me with the right opportunities. And relax and breathe in. I am the Good Shepherd. And breathe out. The Christ in me ensures I am completely supported and cared for. And relax a little bit more. Breathe in. I am the resurrection. And breathe out. The Christ in me renews my mind and body with health and vitality. And relax now. Breathe in. I am the way, the truth, and life. And breathe out. The Christ in me brings guidance and clarity and prospers me. And relax. I am the true vine. Breathe in. And breathe out. The Christ in me is the source of my supply. And relax. And breathe in. And breathe out. Again, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. We relax in the silence and focus on breathing in and out. Relaxing our minds and our bodies into the truth that is spoken. And we let it be. Amen. Blessed day, the dark sacred night.
for that. Let's give Christy a hand one more time. Yes, thank you, Christy, and Brother Rick, and Reverend Arturo on the sound. Put your hands together for yourself. Yes. And I gotta tell you, this time comes so fast. You know, when you first come to church and you walk in the door and you're talking and, hey, how you doing, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? Before you know it, oh, time to go to service. Oh, grab the mic. Oh, jump on the piano. Everything goes by so fast because when you enter into a safe space, you lose track of time. You know why? Because you're safe. Say this with me. I am safe. And if you're just tuning in online, you too are safe. And I want to let you know that you belong here with us right here at Unity of Birmingham. And our ministry continues to thrive and prosper because of the support and financial donations of viewers like you. To continue to make a donation or a tithe online, go to unity.org. Click on the donate button when you get there. Stay a while, take your jacket off, scroll the website, click on articles, and please watch the service. Can we say amen to that? Amen. But we are grateful just for life and health and strength, and I'm grateful for you guys. And it's exciting to be back in corporate worship. And I say that because Monday through Friday, you give so much, especially if you're working still. You know, you're out with family and friends and you do all of that stuff. And then you go, if you have a 9-to-5, or if you're retired, you're doing work-like things and volunteer-like things. And sometimes you can forget what safe spaces feel like, which is why Jesus said this wonderful thing to his disciples. Be in the world, but not of the world. And that sounds kind of harsh as a scripture reference, but I think that he was trying to show them that there is something that happens to you when you go into a space that's not safe, when you are around folks that are asleep to their divine identity. Because when you're around people that are asleep to their divine identity, sometimes they don't behave the way that you would expect them to behave. Which makes sense, because if I'm asleep to my divine potential, then how I treat you is whatever comes to my mind or however I feel. But when I wake up to who I really am, not only do I see myself, I see you. And I treat you like the God that you are. I treat you like the God that you are. I treat you like the God that you are. But when I'm asleep to that potential, anything and everything can happen. And so we find ourselves, all of us, and I'm sure you can attest to this too if you're watching online, we go out into the world not really knowing what might happen. The person on the job, if they're going to be nice today or upset tomorrow. The person at the grocery store, if they're going to smile or if they're going to frown. The people at the stoplight, if they're going to run the red light or actually obey the traffic lights today, you know. But we go out into all of these spaces and we do the best that we can to take our spiritual practices with us. And our spiritual practices provide us comfort along the way so that we don't run out of gas during the week from being exposed just to the elements. And that, I believe, is the real work. Because although this is a safe space, we do come here because this is home and this is family. But our charge and our task, like Jesus informed his disciples, is to go ye into all the world and preach the gospel. Well, what's gospel? Gospel is the God spell. That's why we call our words spelling words. When we're talking, we're casting a spell. So I decide to cast a good spell, a spell of good news. And it's not about evangelism. It's about me deciding what kind of divine being I am and then showing up and living out that truth. And how I choose to be in the world is my business. I'm not responsible for how the world treats me. And that kind of attitude, it removes the expectation that you have sometimes. When you go out into the world and you expect people to behave, where you expect folks to be nice, where you expect folks to treat you with respect and they let you down. When you remove that and you're only responsible for yourself, then you are able to take the atmosphere with you. Say this with me. Take the atmosphere with you. So I'm glad to see you because I like you and I behold the God in you. And each and every one of you, and I behold God in you if you're watching online as well. But I know that I'm going to take this atmosphere of safety and security with me so that wherever I go, no matter the political circumstance that I find myself in, no matter the difficult conversation I find myself having, that there is at least one place where I am accepted, where I belong, where people care about me. And if you take that energy with you, I promise you, it'll sneak up on you and provide support when you least expect it. Can you say amen to that? Amen. Which is why sacred text says that I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Can you say that affirmation with me? I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Well, how do you know you're in the house of God? Because people showed up. I know the presence of God is here, and I know the presence of good is here because you're here. When you showed up, you brought the presence of God with you. So in this moment and in this space, if you will, know with me that we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. We're surrounded and we're protected by a cloud of witnesses. So it's not just one person doing all the work, but you are supported because she's here and she's here and you're here and you're here and you're here. And you that are watching online, you're here too. And there's strength in that. There's power in that, so that you're never alone. And even during the times in your life, you know, those times during the day where you feel like you're by yourself and nobody understands you. If you go back to the memory of how you felt when you were in community, when you were in safe space, when you were in a safe place, where you were in a place where you didn't have to fuss or fight or argue or push or play politics or none of that stuff that we do to negotiate our way through the world. When you come into the presence of God in the house of God around the people of God, you can take that energy with you and it carries you through the week. This is why Jesus told his disciples, do this in remembrance of me. Because if I can get you to remember what this feels like, nobody can take it away from you. Can we say yes to that? Yes. The psalmist is credited as saying, taste and see that the Lord is good. That word taste in Hebrew is ta'am. Taam. And it has to do with discernment. It's not so much just actual tasting and smelling, but it's discernment. Because the experience that you have is subjective. It's personal to you. So my experience of this place is personal to me. I come into this place around you guys and I feel mother. I experience God as divine mother. You come into this place and space and you might feel divine father. Some of you may come into this space and the scientist in you might feel grounded because of all the wood and all of these things that are around you. So our experiences of the divine and our experiences of each other are subjective. But whatever those experiences are, if those experiences are good, I encourage you to take them with you on this week as you go about your week, because those are the things that will nourish your soul. Do this in remembrance of me. Say this with me again. Do this in remembrance of me. This is why we do come to church, because we go out into the world like the prodigal son, and sometimes we forget. We forget who we are because of the things that we're exposed to, because of the things that we see. And it's okay because we're human. And this is why we call it spiritual practice. It's not spiritual mastery, it's spiritual practice, because we do it over and over again. Not to master it, but to enjoy the process of learning, the process of being full and emptying out. Kenosis is what they said in terms of Jesus, the self-emptying process, where I go into my community and I let go of my worry. I go into my community, I go around my family and I let my guard down. I don't have to be tough today. I don't have to be strong around them. I don't have to say the right things. I can stutter and it's okay, because I'm around family. So through that practice of being in safety and safe place, something happens to your spirit. You start to fall in love with life, and you start to see challenges as opportunities. And instead of seeing people as problems, you see them like Jesus saw Lazarus. Oh, they're not dead. They're sleeping. And I must go and wake them up. Say this with me. I must go and wake them up. And that I isn't you personally. That I is God. That I is self-awareness. And so you become the vehicle or the conduit by which their self-awareness comes. And you know how you do that? Through how you treat them. Because for some folks, the only God that they will see is your pretty face. Your smiling face is the only God that they'll ever see. And how can you love the thing that you don't see when you disrespect the thing that you do see? So you have to show up as love. It doesn't matter what they did. It doesn't matter what happens out there. What did you do? Who are you going to be? Who called you? If they called you to spiritual practice, then they're responsible for how you, but they weren't there when you heard the voice. They weren't there when you felt the call. They weren't there in the midnight hour while you were praying, as the old folks used to say. They weren't there when you were going through that bad time. The presence of God was there. So this is the fountain of your strength. Your spiritual practices are what nourishes you. So people's opinions, people's agitations, people's bad comments, people's bad attitudes, none of those things matter. Your job is to be the very best version of yourself that you can be. And by demonstrating that, you demonstrate God. Because Meister Eckhart said, the self of myself is God. So when I get to know who I really am, I get closer to God because God is in that self-awareness. Last scripture, and then I'll move on. The disciples were sitting around Jesus and they had a conversation. And Jesus said, whom do men say that I am? Some say you're a prophet. Some say you're Elijah. And Peter said, thou art Christ, Son of the living God. He said, Peter, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So all of those folks that were around him for 3.5 years, only one person could really speak to who he really was. The power of self-awareness liberates you, because when you discover who you are, there's nothing in the world can tell you where you're not. Can you say yes to that? Yes. This month is National Caregivers Month, and the caregiver bill was signed into law by President Clinton in the 90s. And I wanted to draw attention to National Caregivers Month, and also I wanted to draw your attention to the caregiver within you. Caregivers sometimes go unnoticed because we traditionally associate caregivers with the medical field. But if you're a parent, if you're a supervisor, if you're a manager, if you do anything in this world and you care about it, you are a caregiver. Now, in order to continue to do that thing effectively, to show up in your life, to show up in relationships, and sometimes relationships are 80-20, and sometimes they're 20-80, and sometimes they're 75, whatever the other percentage is left. I can't math today, sorry. But however you choose to show up in that space, you provide care. Now, your ability to continue to show up in that space is important, which is why I wanted to highlight National Caregivers Month. And I wanted to remind you that sometimes the fact that you show up at all is enough. Because you are here, it says a lot. So if you are listening to this message right now, either in person or online, I want you to take a deep breath. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Say this mantra with me. I am enough as I am. So if you see a crooked chair, leave it. If you see a crooked picture on the wall, leave it. If somebody's jacket is twisted, leave them alone. In this space, take 2 seconds, and if you're a caregiver, you know what I'm talking about. The need to fix, the need to adjust, the need to straighten. If you put all of that down and allow yourself to just sit and be with yourself and know that you are enough, and that everyone around you is on their own individual journey of self-awareness and self-awakening, you put the world down, and then your load lightens. But they need my help. They need me too. What if they don't? Here's a scripture for you, and this is a powerful affirmation. Say this with me. One planteth, one watereth, and God gives the increase. Sometimes we're not the person that's providing the increase. Sometimes we're doing the planting. Sometimes our job is just to plant the seed, to be that point of contact, to just do this quick thing and then leave it alone. But the caregiver in us likes to go in and do the whole thing from start to finish. And this is how we burn ourselves out. So the title for today is Acceptance and Commitment. Last month, we talked about a different aspect of the caregiver process. And if you're just tuning in online, I encourage you to go to our website and then click on our main page, and you'll see a listing of all the topics within the theme of All Is Well in response to National Caregivers Month. But today's topic is acceptance and commitment. And here's the truth. And I'm in teacher mode, so I'm going to slow down a little bit. When you discover that you are enough, and when you accept that everyone is on their own individual path, you really do relax. And you find out that everything that needs to be done does not have to be done in my timing. Meaning, there is a natural ebb and flow to everything that's in this world. There's a natural ebb and flow to the universe. And spiritually speaking, scientists go to sleep. The universe abhors a vacuum. Scientists are like, please leave that alone.
And so because the universe abhors a vacuum, Catherine Ponder teaches that God rushes in to fill that space. So for every space that's broken, sometimes you got to leave it alone. Because if you go in and fix it, all you're going to do is prop it up. And so acceptance and commitment is maybe in the brokenness of that thing, there's some beauty. Because there's a thin line between beauty and ugliness, beauty and horror. So in the brokenness sometimes of life, if you step back and if you leave things alone, God can get in and God can do the work. Because after all, isn't it the presence of God that does the work anyway? Can we say yes to that? Yes. But sometimes we get in the way because we want to fix. And it's really not us that wanting to fix. It's us wanting to do it fast. I don't want anyone to see this. Can I talk about us? I don't want anyone to know about this. Let me fix this before somebody finds out. Let me go and do this before they don't know what they're doing. Let me go help them out. And before you know it, by the time you've let me, ain't no me left. So when you got to do the very thing that you're supposed to do, you can't do it because you're doing everybody else's job. You're living everybody else's life but your own. And this kind of teaching sounds a bit selfish, but if you're a caregiver, you know what I'm talking about. Say this with me. Take something for yourself. You ever watch a mom cooked all day long, Thanksgiving dinner, cooked all the food, make sure everybody else is eating, hostess, or a parent, it could be a parent, hosting, and how you doing? You good? You had enough? Okay, let me make sure there's some more. Mom, did you eat yet? No, baby, I eat later. This is what we do. But when you start taking a little bit for yourself, before you go out, go in. Check with yourself to see how you feel. In fact, if you're watching online and also in the audience, do this with me. Place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. I encourage you every day during your reflection or meditation time, take a deep breath and fall back into yourself. When you take a deep breath and fall back into yourself, you'll realize that you walk around tense all day long because you're carrying the world and you're carrying other people. You can put your hands down. But when you fall back into yourself, you start to realize that there are needs that I have. And watch this. I am so empowered with the spirit of agency that there are some needs that I have that only I can fulfill. No matter how I tell you or how I describe it to you, you can't fix it. I'm sorry. You can cook for me, but there's just some things I like cooking for myself because I like them a certain way. And when I remove my expectation and my grudge holding, then I don't get mad at you when you can't make me happy the way I want to be happy. So I make myself that version of happy so I can show up and then I can teach you if you want to learn, but I still maintain that sense of agency and freedom within myself. Because as much as I love you and as much as I love the world, there is still an aspect of my own self that I'm going to keep for me. I'm not going to give it all away completely. And this is how we were taught to love and to show up and to be accepting and to embrace the world by going 100% into something. Got a different teaching for you. What if you were to go instead of 100% into a thing? What if you go 50% into yourself and 50% into the thing? Especially if you want to do it long term. If you go all in, then what do you have left? How many of you are working on jobs right now and you have more than a week of PTO? It's the end of the year. How much PTO do you have left? When you somebody says 0, I use it all. And if you're watching online, this is a shame before God. If it's the end of the year and you got all that PTO and you're trying to roll it over, why did you keep it? If you take some time for yourself, you might find you're less grumpy, you're less edgy, and you might find that you're less dependent on your spiritual practice. Because sometimes we're overly dependent on our spiritual practice because we're not taking proper care of ourselves in our physical life. Our physical needs, our emotional needs. And so our spiritual practices become a prop. Spiritual practice is good, but it's a bad substitute for laughter. Meditation is a bad substitute for love, for comfort, for touch, for intimacy. Spiritual practice can only do so much. And so when we put the right things in the right places, we don't have our spiritual practices and our relationship with God within competing with the things that we need from without. Say this with me, balance. Everything has its place. There's a time when I want to go dancing with my friends, And there's a time where I want to see my friends at church, and I like to keep them separate. And that's okay, because I might have some dance moves you ain't ready for. Because I need that. I need that in my life. And so acceptance and commitment is accepting the fact that I have needs and there are things that only I can do. Now, when I accept this peace that I am enough, when I accept the fact that I am a human being, I breathe and I bleed like everyone else in my world, and I commit to the process of working with myself over time, my life eases. Now, it doesn't mean that things don't come. It doesn't mean that things aren't necessarily rough sometimes. But what happens is I start to change my perception and I let go of the outcome. Say this with me, outcome. When people pray, when you take a look at prayer, there are three main categories that prayers as a whole generally fall in. We have prayers for healing, some kind, prayers for prosperity of some kind, and prayer for divine order, some kind of guidance. All prayers can be looped into those categories. But the prayers don't work per se until we let go of the outcome, because life in its fantastic, intelligent organizational design, or whatever that means, it manifests and orders itself in an interesting, chaotic, but yet organized way. So by being in tune with the infinite, there are times where we can see what's coming. But because we can see it, it doesn't mean that we should say something or do something. Sometimes you got to stand back and leave it alone. So when you pray generically and you surrender to the presence of God, both within you and around you, that's unfolding what has been enfolded inside of you, you let go of the outcome, miracles can happen. But it can be difficult for that prayer or that intention to manifest when I expected it to manifest like this and it looks like that. So when I let go and I realize, first of all, that I am enough and that I am safe and that I am one with the very thing that I'm asking for, and I commit to holding this intention by showing up in my life, by setting correct boundaries, and by taking care of myself, and by taking on what is mine to do and letting go of what is not mine to do, I allow my life to live itself through me. Meaning that there's an intelligence that moves beyond my conscious mind, which is why the Fillmore is differentiated between your natural mind and your conscious mind. And there's a natural process that happens in my life that moves sometimes at a different speed than I want it to go. Emily Dickinson, the wonderful transcendental poet, said it like this. She said, nature is what we know, but have no art to say. And then Myrtle Fillmore picked it up and said, nature is the glorious face of God. So there's a natural flow. And even though they were contemporaries of each other, Emily Dickinson, about 15 years older than her, Emily Dickinson was a contemporary of Thoreau and Walden Pond. Remember Walden Pond? Even though they lived 75 miles away from each other, Thoreau and Emily Dickinson, she never saw them. But they both agree, all three of them agree, Thoreau, Dickinson, and Fillmore, that there's a natural process to life. And when we tune into that natural process of life and we surrender to it, we trust it, and we accept that it is working for our good, we trust that life gets on and life moves on. And we see things that look, it's about to go bad. Let me jump in. If you wait, if you just wait and watch it. Like a child trying to find its own way, stumbling. And you want to go over and rescue it. If you step back sometimes and leave life alone and let it just work itself out, that child gets up, grabs the edge of that table, starts walking. But the child, like your life, sometimes gets crippled because you coddle it too much. You're always trying to fix. You're always trying to catch it before it falls. You don't want it to, it hurt itself. Let me pick it up. Let me patch it up. And there's a time for that. But then there's also a time to leave it alone. And wisdom tells us when to know the difference. Because there are times in your life where you should intervene and act. And there's times in your life when you should step back and leave it alone. But they called my name. I was mentioned in that. And Jesus told his family when at the wedding at Cana of Galilee. If you remember that story, they were having a conversation, and they ran out of wine. And then they found Jesus, and Jesus said, my time has not yet come. Knowing, see, that's wisdom. Knowing when it is your time to intervene. Knowing when it is your time to act. Knowing when it is your time to move can be the difference between the very thing that you are looking to work on, the very thing that you're looking to bring into your life, it coming into your life and leading away. Because there are some things in life, if you intervene too soon, instead of drawing it to you, you run it away from you. Take you back, 19, whatever. You're out on a date and you're looking at them and you're seeing wedding bliss. And they just met you 10 minutes ago. And you accidentally tell them what you saw. Oh, Lord Jesus. Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, all of them. Too soon. 6 months, 8 months down the road, maybe. A year, 2 years. Maybe not at all. But later, say this with me, later. You have that kind of conversation. But if you move too fast, you push too hard, you break things. And sometimes you break yourself in the process. So I push you, and I break you, and I break myself in the process. And everybody sees, especially caregivers, because you know what caregiver burnout looks like. How you doing? I'm fine. What you doing about? I see you. You look like you have that. And it's okay, because we all experience it. And so by learning how to pull back, and last week we talked about this as well. Say this with me. My word is my bond. Meaning I have the power to say, hey, you want to do such and such? Cool. Hey, man, you know what? I can't do it, but let me think about it. I'm going to get back to you. It's okay to commit to a thing, and it's also okay to be man or woman or person or human enough to roll that thing back, because your word is your bond. Meaning you have the power to say yes, and you also have the power to change your mind. In the words of Charles Fillmore, I reserve the right to change my mind. I'm saying all this wonderful, fantastic metaphysical stuff, but I reserve the right to change my mind about it. Why? Because life goes on. And Charles Fillmore, according to stories about him, he loved his apple pie. And he was a Texan man at heart. Doesn't matter that he was from Kansas City. You reserve the right to change your mind. It's okay to roll something back. It's okay to say, you know what? I can't do it, because by being honest enough to say and declare a thing that you can no longer do anymore, it allows the individuals that are in covenant with you to find someone else that can, versus just running away. And that's why acceptance and commitment work is so tough, because the guilt and the shame that we feel, oh man, I said I was going to do such and such. Then we ghost, right? Ghost means you can't find me. They gone. They ain't been to church in 6 months. That's because you don't push them too hard. You don't ask them to do too much. No, they ain't coming back. Here's the haunting. Ghosting is when I can't find you. Haunting is when you are in hiding and you're secretly stalking, trying to find out what happened. And that's what we do with persons, places, and things. We ghost because of the acceptance and commitment error, and then we haunt because we want to find out what happened. But we don't want to ask, because then it's like, ha, there you are. We've been looking for you. And you got to run away again. Because of the acceptance and commitments piece. And so this is what we call spiritual integrity. Say this with me, integrity. Meaning that I am going to own responsibility for myself. Meaning I'm not responsible for what shows up in the world per se. I know that life starts and ends with me and what I say yes to. And my oneness with my own self, with God within, empowers me with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to know myself and to know my limits. To know that my boundaries are not to offend you. They're to protect me so I can stay sane. They're to protect you so you won't drive yourself crazy. And so that you won't allow persons, places, and things to bring the crazy out of you. Because if folks really knew who you really were, they really wouldn't push you so hard. Because the moment some of y'all snap, God help you, there's a whole other side come out. That hair go from black to red. Cali comes out. And then it's... And so through your personal relationship with yourself and your acceptance of the fact that sometimes you need rest. Sometimes you miss lunch. Sometimes you don't get enough sleep. Sometimes you work too hard. And the people pleasing that's within you makes you say, you want to do such and such? Sure, we got to do such and such and such and such. When you stand up to and for yourself, you say, you know what? I'm honored that you asked, but I just can't do it. Knowing that God in you, with you, as you, this presence that's never in absence, abhors a vacuum, meaning that if I am honest enough to say I can't do it, support rushes in immediately versus me occupying a spot that I don't want to be in or occupying a thing that I don't want to do. It prevents life or God or the universe from sending in the help that can do it. So everything works together, meaning my no doesn't mean I don't want it to work. I want it to work. I'll be cheering on the sidelines. I just can't start in the game. I'm here to support. And this is how we all support each other, by being honest. Because if you're tired, it's hard for me to know unless you tell me. Rev, I'm tired. I had a long week. Oh, my bad. That's why you were so nasty. Oh, it's cool. I ain't gonna take it personal. It's all right. And when we're honest with the people in our life and the people that we're in covenant with and the people we're in relationship with, our friends and our family, we keep them around. Because to them, we look moody when we don't share this truth, this insight. I only know your wants and needs when you communicate them with me. And so the acceptance and commitment piece, spiritually speaking, is me, first of all, knowing that I am enough as I am, that life has a natural ebb and flow, and that I am divinely a part of the ebb and flow, whether or not I participate in everything that's going on in life. I can sit on the sidelines and I'm still involved. I can run point and have the basketball. I'm still involved. I can be number 2. I don't have to be number 1. I don't have to take the lead on everything. Everything doesn't have to be my idea. The acceptance and commitment piece makes me come to terms with what is so. And it gives me the wisdom and the strength to recognize, almost done, what is coming into being versus what I want to appear. Because sometimes what is naturally coming into being is opposite of what I want to create. And it doesn't mean that I can't create that thing, but I have to find a vacuum for it to fit in order for that to properly come into being. Meaning, if there are 2 chairs and I want 3 people to sit there, I got to wait until one person gets up and then someone can have a seat. But if my needs and my wants supersede the space that life has created for me, then it won't work. So the real question with acceptance and commitment is, does this thing work in your world? Does this thing work in your world? If it can't fit in your world, you can't bring it in. You don't always have to throw it away. Sometimes you got to wait until you create space for it. And when you create space for it, then it can come fit without knocking and bumping into everything else that you've already committed to. And this is how we use wisdom to govern our life. And this is how we protect ourselves from burnout and how we protect the ones that we love from dealing with us after we've burnt out. And in this space, God is honor. You know why? Because you're honest with yourself. Thank you for listening. Peace and blessings.
Okay, let's have another hand for Reverend Eugene. Now for the fun part, announcements. Prayer chaplaincy, December the 4th. If you're interested, Reverend Jesse bham@gmail.com. Email him. 12:30 to 2:30 on the 4th of December. January the 29th, we have another session with Reverend Jesse. The Lost Gospel of Judas with, it's $20. Ask anybody that has attended any of these sessions and they will tell you, yes, you must attend. Great. We're still collecting coins. You see the big jug at the door back there, just loose coins that you have. We're still collecting those. I have a feeling we have a project coming up. We might need some of those for. We'll stay tuned. We always have something going on, right, Reverend Jesse? And now for the offertory. We are here because of you. We're all volunteers. So take your tithe and hold it in your hand as we repeat the prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love, and I trust God, and so it is. Be sure, if you're online, you can go to unitybham.org/giving. So the offering bowls are at the end of each aisle, and there's one on the table out in the lobby. So tonight we're going to sing a song honoring all children. So if you're online, you have children in the house, bring them around, and let's all stand and sing the song to honor our children. Audience. Okay, so while we're standing, let's continue to sing the peace song. Surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Wherever we are, God is.
Wherever I am, God is.
And all is well. And so it is. So take your offering out of your pockets, out of your purse, and put them in the bowls. And Reverend Jesse has a message.
Quick announcement for you. Thank you. This year we've done some amazing workshops, and they were all based on the community's ideas. So I want to thank you all for your ideas and for your support all year long and for all the volunteer work that you do to make this ministry a success. So if you will, I'm in the process of planning workshops for next year. There's a little green suggestion box that's on the table. If there are any spiritual topics or anything you're interested in seeing happen in the ministry, as far as workshops or things like that, the workshops are generally done immediately following service. Drop your idea off in the suggestion box that's on the table. Also, November 27th, I'm going to be out, so we'll have a guest speaker. I'm going to go and visit some family that I haven't seen in a long time. And then on the 11th of December, we're having a Christmas potluck. So if you're in town and you haven't left for the holidays, come, let's enjoy each other, socialize, that sort of thing. Let me look up in your face and give you a hug. And on the 25th, there are some communities that aren't having Christmas service, but I want to hold space for those that are in town that either don't have family, want to bring their family in town. So we'll be having service, even if it's an abridged, short service, even though our services aren't really long. So I'll kill this announcement real quick so we can honor that. So we will be having service on the 25th, and I believe that's all I got. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.